Greetings. Sorry, I'm paranoid. Greetings. I am Jam Jam, also known as Ant, aka Pack Dizzle, aka the Fuzzy Teddy Bear, aka Brown Sugar. No, I'm just kidding. So I have a 1974 Datsun 260Z behind me. Let me give you a little backstory of this car. I've had this thing for over a decade. Plans were to restore it. Plans were to change into a race car. Plans are still up in the air. I'm hoping that I can finally get this car to be the car that I'm gonna drive. I'm gonna get to drift. Kind of got a little bet going on with one of our fellow employees, aka race car driver. He's also been working here for quite some time. A little story about me and Kevin. We've known each other since we were 12 years old. We've constantly been battling back and forth on always trying to out-compete one another. However, Kevin always wins. This time, no. We've kind of got this bet going on where we both want to drive the Black Friday drift event, but we both don't have running cars. Kevin has a pro car, which costs him almost like $200 a lap to drive that thing. So he's trying to get something a little more affordable. He approached me with, I want to get this affordable car running and with a KA, and I picked up this really cheap shell and I'm gonna get it running by Black Friday drift event, and I challenged him that he can't get it done. However, he then challenged me back that I can't get a car running. And since I've had this one for 10 years, he's probably right. But I'm trying to prove him wrong here. I've told everybody that I'm gonna be driving here shortly, you know, and everybody knows me. That shortly turned into a decade. So this car was supposed to be a restoration project. It's now turning into my drift car. A lot of people may be upset about that since these cars are getting harder and harder to find, a little more rare, and every true Nissan enthusiast knows that this thing is eventually it's going to skyrocket in price, and I'm not going to put it back to original condition. However, I do have a lot of really key components to put this thing together to get it track ready really fast. I have a few engine options, I have a few suspension options, and one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the old Datsun, old style, old technology steering suspension, especially because I want to drift it, and I'm going to convert it into an S13 front suspension using Park Shop Max knuckles, and most of the other stuff is going to be stock S13 subframe, low control arm, and I'll be running a set of like EnjukuRacing S13 front coilovers on it to try and get something that I'm very used to, S-chassis suspension, and go ahead and get the ball rolling on that. I'm actually going to pull the subframe, pull the rack, and go ahead and try to see if I can get the S13 one in without minimum modifications, but it's looking like it's going to be quite a bit of modifications. But once I get it out, I'll measure it up and determine what I'm going to do with it. So this stuff here, freeze rusty parts. I'm going to need a lot of this. So I'm gonna go ahead and measure all these rust holes to see how much material I'm actually gonna need to fix it all. So I've gone through a few suspension components with this car, and what's crazy is this Datsun, when I got it, didn't have bolt-in coilovers. So 10 years ago, I cut these plates out and I only just recently welded them in, and even though BC now has coilovers that allows me to physically just bolt them right in, I had to go ahead and finish this with these welding camber plates, and this is gonna allow me to put new style S13 coilovers all the way around on this 240Z. So after getting my measurements, I kind of have an idea of the location of where I need my front subframe. I've gone ahead and mounted my coilover so that I can come up with the length of the control arm that I need. I was trying and I was hoping to get a factory S13 lower control arm to work so that if I wreck or if I get into an accident, I can just go ahead and bolt another one in. But it's actually looking like I'm going to be the first person ever to actually shorten an S13 lower control arm. Most people extend them so they can get more angle with the rest of their kit, and I've never actually shortened one before. So it's looking like when I put this up, from the measurements I have from when we were measuring this subframe, is also the location of the strut towers, that this is just going to be too long. And when I've done these measurements, I'm not trying to shoot for absolute perfection on it. A lot of people may say, well, he doesn't have the stereo collision correct because his bolts are too long on his lower control arms and his ball joint ride height is completely wrong and that car's gonna drive like crap. But I don't really care. Like, I'm trying to get this done fast, as well as this isn't gonna be a pro car. I mean, a lot of the guys that I'm friends with, or cars we put together here for racing, these things are precision built machines, and they're to within a 16th or even closer sometimes on the suspension geometry. But I'm gonna go ahead and get a lower control arm done and put it in. I haven't fixed this completely yet, holding it with some clamps, and gonna see roughly where it's gonna get me, and hopefully enough to where I can just move forward with doing the rear suspension and being really committed to this being the location where I'm gonna keep it.
Many hours later.
So I've gone ahead and determined that I need to shorten an S13 lower control arm about 2 inches, and I've gone ahead and done this here on one that we had lying around. I've just taken 2 inches out of here after the tension rod mounting point, so this way I can keep this and make a set of S13 tension rods mount to this chassis also, and not changing the sway bar pickup point right here, so that I can also try and make S chassis sway bar work. Put in a new ball joint. I've gone ahead and boxed the bottom for additional support, and once I got it on the car, I went ahead and mounted my knuckle and a hub to see that I'm making sure that it's in the right location, it's got the correct movement, and gone ahead and make sure that my coilover isn't hitting anywhere in my strut tower, as well as making sure that it's not hitting anywhere else. I did notice that when I did this and I put the subframe in for an S chassis, that it ended up shifting the center line of the wheel forward inside of the fender arc. And it's looking like I may have to actually trim my fenders, otherwise I'm gonna get a lot of contact with my wheel with the fender. I'm not able to fully determine this yet because I have not put in a rack, I have not got tie rods on yet. I haven't got the car at ride height to be able to determine this. But from my experience, I'm most likely gonna have to trim my fender. I can't move the rest of the suspension point back unless I actually physically cut the strut towers out and move the strut towers back also in order to center it in the wheel. And for time and this isn't a perfect car, as I was saying, it just trimming the fenders is probably going to be my option. A lot of people are not going to like that. It's something that I'm okay with. Sacrifice it. If I do wreck this car, which is probably going to happen, then maybe later when I go ahead and need to tube the whole front, I'll change the pickup point of the strut and move the whole subframe back and actually get it where it's supposed to be. But for now, I think I'm just going to move forward with this. So I've gone ahead and put a temporary brake rotor on, got a temporary wheel on here. This is a 17-inch. These cars were 13, 14, max 15, 16 inch on them. So I haven't determined if I'm gonna run a wheel this large. I'm thinking that I'm going to, because the tire sizes are actually pretty cheap for a 17 inch wheel. I think you'll be fine. They're easy to come by. I may not run this offset, but being able to determine camber and, you know, from just visually looking at it right now, it looks like it's in the right location with the short and low control arm. Camber seems to be pretty fine. I'm obviously not gonna know toe, and I'm not gonna know my full range of angle until I go ahead and get the rack mounted, get the car down on the ground, maybe throw it up on the alignment rack, and actually fully fine tune it. And I'm just gonna pretty much have to deal with whatever I got at that point. I may be able to do a few changes here and there. I've got adjustable camber plates on the top. I can always move my lower control down a little bit. I may be able to shorten or get longer tie rods. And I have some caster adjustment with the tension rod brace that I put in there. So I'm not gonna fully button everything down until I get it up on the alignment rack and actually find out where I want it to be and be within that range, and then just be happy with it from there. And then maybe if I don't like it, I can make major changes in the future. Next step is determining what engine I'm gonna get, putting the engine in and making sure that it clears everything that I've already done. And this way I can bolt everything down, start taking stuff out of the engine bay and moving forward.